On today's episode of the Fit for Fortune podcast, I'm welcoming Michael Serwa, the UK's highest paid personal coach who has been named the Ferrari, the James Bond, the Gordon Ramsay, the Chuck Norris, the King, and dominatrix of coaching, which I'm sure already paints a solid and, may I say, pretty accurate picture for the listener. So it will be of no surprise that Michael is actually famous for his no bullshit approach. This is something him and I are quite similar in. I have a lot of people say that I'm very no bullshit. I think it's the Eastern European charm we both possess. And I think Michael is the epitome of what it means to be a self-made man. He went from arriving in the UK with not a dime in his pocket and without speaking much English at all 20 years ago to basically telling billionaires to stop bitching and get to work today. Michael, thank you for coming on to the show.
Thanks for having me, David. And the thing that you said about Eastern European background of ours, the directness that we are known for, you and I, in the way we work with our clients, is linked to how people are in general in our countries, right? In Poland, in Hungary. It's not something that I've artificially developed because I thought, oh, this could be an angle. I just am being myself. And sure enough, there is just enough people who look that type of coaching approach.
This is the treatment we had to survive as well throughout our childhood.
Yeah, exactly.
To stay on brand and remain no bullshit, I'm going to cut out all the fluff about how your day has been and everything and just ask you with the first question. What are some common problems you encounter with your clients? Because as far as I understand, your clientele and mine are pretty similar. They are the 1% or maybe the 1% of the 1%, people that are financially sort of sorted already, and they have the privilege of worrying about other stuff. What are some common problems and common solutions that they seek you out with?
Sure. So for me, this is going back to me being in my 20s, so a while ago, I'm 42 now, and having this idea that I absolutely do not want to settle for just having okay life, for just being successful in one area or two areas. I wanted to have it all, right? You can call it greed. I was greedy that way. And what it meant to me was a fulfilling career. So doing something that doesn't feel like work to me, having my dating life sorted out, and having a certain level of fitness, right? And I knew that if I have those things in place, I'll be happy as a result, right? So to your point, yes, not all of my clients, but many of my clients are financially sorted. They certainly don't come to me for me to help them make more money. They have, in some cases, 1,000 times more money than me, if not 10,000 times more money. So they don't need my help how to make money. They know it better than me, right? But what they potentially don't have is the same level of success or similar level of success in other areas. And that's where I come in to help them have it all, basically, right? To make sure that they can look at other areas of their life and see how they perform just as well in those other areas as in the business, if they're business owners, or in their career, if they have a corporate career.
So you said career, dating, fitness, and as a result, you would be happy. Is happiness not something to separately work on? Because I have a bunch of clients that are sort of set in those fields, and yet they find themselves not necessarily very fulfilled.
Sure. So one of the things I do, David, when I have the initial consultation with the prospective client, which is how I start my relationship with every new client, is this assessment where I ask people to score themselves out of 10 on 25 different areas. 0 being I'm extremely dissatisfied in this area, 10 being I'm extremely satisfied. The general happiness score is the last one, is the 25th area. Almost with no exceptions, the general happiness score we end up with is the exact average of all the other scores. So that's why, going back to what I was saying, if you are satisfied in your love life, if you're satisfied in your career, if you're satisfied with your finances, if you're satisfied with your confidence, self-love, work-life balance, health, fitness, as a direct result of that, you will be happy at the end of the day, right? There's never been a case, maybe with one or two exceptions, never been a case where someone's scores in all of those 24 areas were high, and then they feel 2 out of 10 on a happiness level. It just doesn't work like that. And equally, if someone is dissatisfied in those 24 areas, right, and between those 24 areas on top, anything of importance will come into one of those categories, right? And there's just absolutely no way for someone to score themselves very high on those areas and end up with a low happiness score. And equally, there's absolutely no way for someone to score themselves very low on those areas and end up with a high happiness score, right? The exception would be someone who is, how to put it nicely, deeply spiritual. And that's not really the people who come to me for coaching necessarily. People who might have shitty love life, no money, they're massively overweight, but for some reason, because of the faith or spiritual beliefs, they still find themselves being extremely happy. I wouldn't be able to do that. I need those things on those 24 areas to be in place for me to feel happy and fulfilled at the end of the day. So I see very, very few exceptions from that general rule of if you want to be happy, you want to look at every single area of your life, work on the areas where currently your scores are not really high. And as a direct result of that, you can expect yourself to be happy at the end of the day.
And what about for this same clientele to be able to switch off and relax? And I think this is something that you also struggle with, because all our clients, or most of our clients, you and I are all pretty much type A people. We're like go-getters, and we have a harder time switching off and relaxing. How do you help them with that?
I'm definitely a workaholic. I definitely am better at working than not working. But I also made some progress as part of my personal development journey. I've definitely made some progress around being able or getting to the point where I'm able to do nothing. And by nothing, I don't mean fucking sitting and staring at the ceiling, right? Watching Netflix, right? Or
staring at the screen instead of at the ceiling.
Doing something that's not necessarily productive per se, so it's pure entertainment, and not feeling guilty and feeling okay with it, right? And one of the reasons as to why I believe I can do that without feeling guilt, because I will always prioritize what I need to do professionally, and I will only ever do quote unquote nothing after I've done everything I had to do, after I reply all the messages from my clients. All my clients have 24/7 access to me via WhatsApp. So it's not only, my work is not only when I'm facing a client, when I'm with the client, but it's basically 24/7, 365. I did go through this phase, and I think it's good to recognize that different phases in life. I went through this hustle phase when I was around 30, and I'm glad that I did, because that allowed me to establish myself. But since I established myself in my field, by the time I was in my early 30s, early to mid 30s, I took the foot off the gas a little bit, not because I became lazy all of a sudden. It's just because I understood that I don't need to work as hard anymore in terms of the hours. I don't need to grind anymore because I'm at a different phase of my life, right? So now I enjoy working with a small select number of clients. I became super particular in terms of who I work with. Whereas when I first started, and this is the recommendation I would give to any personal trainer, coach, any type of service provider, any operator of any kind, don't be too picky at the start, right? Build yourself up first and then become picky, right? It would be a mistake to try to be too picky too early, because then, one, you will not gain as much experience as you could have otherwise, like I have, right? By just being open to work with anyone who was willing to pay, I would take them on back in the day, right? Now it's different. Now those initial consultations, which are designed for the prospective client and myself to see if this is the right fit, they're partially there for me to take myself to the realization that this is someone I could actually work with and deliver remarkable results for. Not just any results, but remarkable results for, right? Just like this is an opportunity, obviously, for a prospective client to determine whether I'm the right fit for them. So one way to look at it, those initial consultations, it's like a two-way interview. So it doesn't feel like an interview. It's more of an informal chat, right? It's not like I have a set of questions.
It's a vibe
like,
check.
okay, where would you like to be in 5 years? Wrong answer. Leave, right? So it's definitely more of an informal chat, but it's definitely at the same time a two-way interview, basically, to see if this is the right fit. Because one thing I've learned, David, long time ago already, and I thought that this was quite an interesting observation. And the observation was how there is a direct link between the level of personal chemistry I have with the client and how much that client gets out of coaching with me. I'm sure you can relate just based on your facial expression, right? So in simple terms, the more I like the client and the more the client likes me, the more they get out of coaching. The best way I can explain it is, in order for us to want to follow someone's advice, we need to like them. We need to like them and we need to trust them. I can give someone the best possible advice for what they need advice for, but if they fundamentally don't like me or they don't like me enough, they will always be more suspicious around whether this advice is right for them or not. Whereas if someone is sold on me as a person, they're so much more likely to follow on this advice. And equally, the more I am, quote unquote, sold on the person I work with, the more I find myself going above and beyond to help this person. It's just the human nature, right? Like, as a human being, I'm not gonna care about every human being in the same way, right? Maybe this is something I will get to after 20 years more of personal development, when I reach my ultimate Zen state, where I'm going to look at everyone and see everybody the same way. That's certainly not the case right now. So I have a fundamental love and respect for everyone. It doesn't mean that I want everyone in my space, that I want to work with everyone.
You do try delivering the same level of service. You do try caring equally the same about everyone, but you cannot help but like some people more.
100%. And if I don't like someone, it's like dating. If I don't like someone enough to want to have a second date, if I don't like someone enough to want to work with them on the back of the initial consultation, it's not a reflection on them. It doesn't mean that there's something wrong with them. And equally, if people don't like me sometimes, it's not a reflection on me, the way I see it. That's the last thing I want to think about. It's like, okay, what have I done wrong? Nothing. It's just energetically, we are not aligned, and that's okay.
I think there's that line on your website, which I absolutely loved, which said, most people don't resonate with my style of coaching, and that's completely okay because I'm not the coach for most people, or something.
Exactly.
So how did you go from charging, I think it was maybe 20 pounds, maybe 15 years ago?
20 pounds, 13 and a half years ago, 2011, I started 20 pounds per session. I had 20 clients at 20 pounds per session before I felt I could justify charging more, because mind you, with all the confidence and bravado that I had, especially in my 20s, so confidence has never been my issue, but I'm talking about general confidence as a human being. I had no confidence as a coach. Why would I have confidence as a coach if I've never coached anyone in a formal setting, right? I didn't think for a second that it was right for me to ask for more money. So 20 pounds per session in the context of life coaching is way below the UK's average. It's basically like coaching for free, right? So many coaches, when they start, they have a few pro bono clients, maybe 5 to 10 pro bono clients. So I didn't do that, partially because I was desperate to make some money because I didn't have any other source of income at the time, right? But I thought that the 20 pounds per session was what I should be charging relative to my confidence as to how much value I could offer to those people. And after having 20 clients at that level, I thought, you know what? I think I'm ready to put my fees up to the whopping 50 pounds per session. And I've done that for 6 months. Then I was charging 75 pounds per session for 6 months, then 100 pounds per session for a few months. And only then I turned pro and went from charging per session to charging per program. And that's what I've been doing ever since. It's just that as the demand for my services have gone up, my fees would follow that demand, right? So There's never been a case of me waking up one day thinking, I think I should be charging more now because I'm so amazing. It's always been dictated by the market condition, if you will, right? It's always been dictated by the amount of people who wanted to work with me and how I would use my fee to basically make sure that I don't work with more people than I can physically handle. Because just like in your case, when you work with people one-to-one, there is obviously a limitation as to how many people we can work with at any given time, especially if we want to deliver the service at the highest level. So yes, I could pack in more clients. I could be coaching 7 days a week from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, right? So I could pack as many people, but the quality obviously would be compromised by it massively because there is a limited mental bandwidth that we have. And also I have this thing, call me crazy. I like to be able to remember the names of my clients and the names of the spouses and maybe kids and dogs. And there's obviously limits as to how much information we can remember, right? So I definitely, over the last few years, since 2021, I definitely went from working with 25 to 30 clients at any given time, which is what I've done for most of my career, to more of a boutique type practice where I work on average with only 10 clients at any given time. And as you can imagine, working with 25 to 30 clients at any given time versus working with 10, those people who I work with today can get much more out of me because I don't need to spread that attention over as many people as before. So obviously I was trying my best, even when I had at one point in 2017, it got to 40 clients. It was hard, right? When you want to deliver at the highest level and you have 40 clients, how can you possibly do that? Like, I don't care, like, what, you know, how well intended you are and how passionate you are and how dedicated you are. It just won't be possible, right? But 10 clients, I've concluded that's my sweet spot. I can go up to 15 as far as like scheduling things is concerned. But 10 clients at any given time, around 10 clients appear to be my sweet spot. I wouldn't want to work with less people because then I wouldn't feel like I'm doing enough of what I love doing, right? So if somebody came to me, hypothetically, ask myself those kind of questions, you know, what if, I don't know, Elon Musk came to me or Jeff Bezos and said, hey, I would like to work with you, but I wouldn't want to share you with anybody else. I'm going to pay you 10 times what you make right now, but you can only work with me. I would really struggle with that, David, because I'll be then thinking, okay, I'll be making all of this money, which I don't need, by the way, 10 times more, like I wouldn't know what to do with it, right? But then if I only worked with one client, what would I do with all this extra time, right? Especially considering that I don't have the family, I don't have, you know, a bunch of kids, 6 ex-wives, I don't have any addictions, I don't have hobbies really, right? So then, like, what do you do with all this time? So for me, it's not about like, okay, I want to work with as little a number of clients as possible for as much as possible. That's not my goal. My goal is to always work with just the right amount of people, given where I am in my professional development, like what's my preference at any given time. So currently, over the last few years, like I said, it's been around 10 people. That's my sweet spot.
Maybe this will be a difficult question to answer due to the confidential nature of your work, but how did you go from charging £20 a session to charging 50K for a package? Were there any sort of landmarks or any specific achievements you had to make on the way?
Sure. So first of all, just to clarify, it's not always 50K. It's up to 50K. So typically it's less than that. 50K is when I work with someone for a year. There is very few people who come to me with a list of things to work on that is so long that requires a year of coaching. So yeah, it goes up to 50K, but more often than not, it's considerably less than that, just to clarify that. Obviously, by the time someone might be listening to this, I don't know, 5 years from now, I might be starting at 50K and it's going all the way to God knows what, right? To answer your question, there wasn't anything, an event that took place that made me go from 20 pounds per session to suddenly charging in tens of thousands. It was very much a graduate increase, right? Every 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, few years, back to what I was saying before, when I was getting to the point where too many people I wanted to work with were saying yes to working with me at the price I was charging at the time, I had two options, right? And as business owners, we will have two options, right? Option one, we turn people down because we say we don't have space, right? Or option two, the only option that makes logical sense to me is you put your fees up, and that in itself would automatically limit the amount of people who are in a position and willing to work with you, right? So there certainly hasn't been a quote unquote lucky break that took place. So, when I got my book out years ago, things just skyrocketed. It was just graduate increase in my visibility, gradual increase in my confidence as a coach, my reputation increasing gradually over time as well. And all those things, all those factors have contributed to me allowing myself to go from 20 pounds per session in 2011 to what I charge right now. But yeah, this is, 13 and a half years in the making.
So you talk a lot about confidence. Is confidence something that you think you need to work on and build in order to get better at it? Or is it something, like you mentioned, that in order for it to grow, you just need to do the work? Like, sure. Which comes first?
Sure. I love the subject of confidence because there's different theories around that. One train of thought is that confidence is a requirement, like it has to be there in order for us to be able to take action. Another school of thought is that confidence is the result of taking action, and us growing our confidence comes as we take action. So as I said before, when I started coaching at 28 and I didn't have confidence around me charging, taking money for coaching, I've always been a confident person, right? That's not to say that I've always been as confident as I am now. I am more confident this year than I was last year, and I'll be more confident next year than I am this year. But what I'm trying to say is that my baseline level of confidence has always been high. Right. So I'm just, being transparent. I've never been the shy fat kid in the corner, massively introverted, who lost virginity at 25. That's not my story. Right. So I've always been on the confidence side. However, when I've been introduced to personal development at 23, that's when I started to work on my confidence, and I added different layers or additional layers to the confidence that was already there. And how have I done it? Coming back to your question, by doing the things, or by doing more of those things that I was afraid of. So for example, for the first 26 years of my life, I was very average with women. And for me, average means bad. For me, average means useless. For me, average means shit. I know for most people, average is like, oh, average is average. Average is okay. Sure. Yeah. But for me, okay is shit. Right. And I'm not asking everyone to believe what I believe in. All I can share is what I believe in. For me, okay is shit. For me, okay is not good enough. Right. Because for me, the idea of having okay life has never been particularly appealing. Right. And all my clients can relate to that. When they come to me, they already have good lives.
More than okay lives.
My prospective clients come to me with good lives. That's not a problem. They don't come to me and say, Michael, my life is shit. Can you help me make it good? They come to me with good lives, and my job is to coach them to turn those good lives into outstanding lives. Right? So coming back to the confidence, first 26 years, useless with women. There was a period where I was blaming women for the fact that I was shit with them. It was like, oh my God, how could she do that? I'm such a nice guy. How could she reject me? How could she cancel the date number 2 or 3? Women are bitches. I was like, oh my God, right? And we learn in personal development that for as long as we don't take responsibility for where we are. It's like, in your line of work, for someone to say, well, I'm fat, I've always been fat, but it's genetics. It's thick bones, right? And I say, yeah, thick bones, my ass, right? Oh, my whole family is fat. Yeah, it doesn't mean that you have to be fat, right? But for as long as someone blames external factors for the lack of success in a given area. So in my case, I was for a short period of time stupidly blaming women, not those particular women that were rejecting me, women as a whole, yes. Right? Like, they are the problem because I'm a nice guy. I'm not ugly, I know I'm not the best, but I'm not ugly, right? I'm quite tall. I know how to talk to people. I'm relatively confident, right? They are the problem. And it's only when I connected the dots and had this obvious, now I see it as obvious, but it wasn't obvious at the time. Like, oh my God. I remember what I was exactly when that happened. I was 26. I remember, oh my God, after like another rejection that I received via text, I remember thinking to myself, shit, they're not the problem. I am the problem. So the moment I took responsibility for the fact that I was useless with women, I gave myself an opportunity to do something about it. Because when you think about it, if you blame, in this particular case, so to use that as an example, if we blame the opposite sex, for straight people listening, if we blame the opposite sex for the lack of our success with them, we have a big problem. Because if they're responsible for our lack of success with them, the only way to fix that problem would be by changing them. Well, good luck if you are straight man. Good luck changing 4 billion women. Right? It's much easier when you think about it to work on yourself. And that's exactly what I did, right? I have transformed myself in my late 20s. I have transformed myself in the context of dating. And I went from being very average to being much better than average, to put it mildly, right? And then at 28, when I found my calling in coaching, I applied the same mindset. I applied the same methodology. Okay, I'm shit at it. How can I become good at it? Well, I need to put a lot of reps in. So just like with women, I became good with women by learning about female psychology, but that wasn't enough, right? That's one of the traps that people fall into sometimes. So if it's fitness, I'm going to listen to all those fitness podcasts. I'm going to follow all those people on Instagram. I'm going to read books. I might go to some events. So they do everything except for the one thing that they should be doing, which is to hit the gym and focus on the diet, right? So people can fall into this trap. People can fall into this trap when it comes to women. So I'm going to read all the books that there are about female psychology. I'm going to go to events, seminars, etc. But they don't do the one thing that is the most important, which is to actually go out there, push through the fear, and talk to women, to go on as many first dates as possible in any way possible, right? Like to get those dates any way possible, right? And that's exactly what I did. I just put myself out there. As I was reading the books and studying female psychology and male and female dynamics in general, I threw myself into trying to put myself in front of as many women as possible. And guess what? At the start, I sucked. Right? I was approaching women, on the streets of London so badly, so awkwardly, right? And I could tell it was bad based on their reactions sometimes because they were just like, this guy is weird, right? And I don't blame them because I was just I didn't know what I was doing, right? But sure enough, you do something 20 times, you do something 50 times, you do something 100 times, you do something 500 times, 1,000 times, and guess what? You become good at it, right? So how did I improve dramatically? How did I transform my confidence around women? Two things. One, sure, learning the theory, but I combined it with a huge amount of action. And it's the same with coaching, right? I was learning about coaching. I was learning a lot about the business of coaching. So like how to build a business, right? Where most coaches just focus on the coaching itself. They do coaching certifications, then diplomas, and they think that the public, the market gives a shit about how many diplomas they have, right? and then you have a consultation with them, and if it's via Zoom,
in the background,
you sometimes see the display of certificates, right? And those coaches are so proud of these diplomas, but the reality is, and I don't mean to be mean to those coaches, but the reality is, and I know that for a fact, the market doesn't care about your coaching qualifications. The market only fucking cares what can you do for them. Can you get them the fucking result that they want, right? How many coaching schools you've been to, they couldn't care less, right? So yes, I understood that I want to become as good of a coach as possible, but I also understood that the only way to become very good as a coach is by coaching a lot of people. And in order to coach a lot of people, I had to learn how to get clients, right? So my confidence, we're speaking about confidence, obviously, right? My confidence as a coach came from coaching by now over 500 people. So now I don't care who's in front of me. I don't care if this guy's a billionaire, if he's a president of some organization. I don't care who or she is. I don't only work with guys. It's 50-50 male and female clients. I don't care who those people are because I've been in front of so many people of different types or from different industries that it makes no difference to me, right? And I also understand that whatever they come to me with, I have probably been in front of that particular challenge many times over, because how many possible challenges human beings can have that would lead them to seek out the help of a life coach, right? There's it's more than 5 or 10, but it's not 300, which means that those challenges repeat themselves. So my confidence as a coach comes first and foremost from the amount of coaching clients I've had over the amount of years I've been coaching for. And I know that with every new client, with every year of me coaching, that confidence will go up and up and up, right? So another example we could use, public speaking. Most people are afraid of public speaking. In fact, it's the biggest fear people have. Apparently, 52% of human beings are afraid of public speaking. So if you're listening to this, you are statistically more likely to be afraid of it than not. I was definitely in that 52%, and I wasn't too happy about it. And I asked myself again, what can I do to overcome it?
It's public speaking.
By public speaking, right? Surprise, surprise, right? And I remember my first talk I put together as a coach. It was on law of attraction. I remember I had 12 people attending. David, I was so fortunate that the setup was in such way that there was a table that I was sitting, behind of. So I could hide my shaky hands under the table, right? Because like my face, I hope, wasn't shaking, but I remember my hands were slightly shaking, but because they were under the table, nobody could see it, right? But I was scared. I wasn't experienced, right? But then I spoke again, public spoke again and again and again and again. And now after doing it approximately 250 times, I still get nervous.
Wow.
Just before the talk, and maybe over the first minute of the talk that I give, speech of some sort, whatever it is. But then it just, And here is the thing. On the subject of confidence, it is so easy, and I don't blame anyone for doing that because I've been guilty of doing that myself. I sometimes catch myself doing it to this day, even though I'm aware of the theory behind it, what I'm about to share. And that is to look at someone doing something very well or doing something with ease and think that, well, it's easy for them. They must have been born with that ability. But that's like looking at Roger Federer playing tennis and going, well, it's easy for him to play like that. He must have been born with this special gene that allows him to. But if we were to look at the tapes of Roger Federer, picking up the racket for the first time, I'm not sure this tape exists, but hypothetically, let's imagine it does. I'm sure he sucked to begin with. Just like Michael Jordan sucked, I'm sure of it, when he picked up the basketball for the first time. And Leo Messi probably sucked when he played football for the first time, right? So what we see when we look at people who are very good at what they do, we see, I don't want to say final product because, like I said, I am planning to get better and better with every year that goes by. But But it's just so easy to look at someone on the stage, for example, being a confident public speaker and think, oh, I could never do what he or she does because, I mean, look at them. They're so good at it, right? You first of all, you are not aware what's going through their head. They might be looking very confident on the stage, but they might be dying on the inside, right? So you have no way of knowing that. So don't think that just because they look comfortable, they are actually feeling comfortable. So coming back to those two trains of thought, confidence being a requirement to take action, meaning I'm not going to do that thing until I feel confident enough to do it. I'm not going to do that thing until I build enough confidence, learn enough about the subject, and only then I will take the action. And I do not recommend that method because that can take you your whole fucking life. It's like, I'm not going to talk to a girl in a bar until I read every book on the subject, until I understand, until I get 10 different coaches, right? And then, but listen, by the time you get to that point, you might be 75, you know? So like, maybe don't wait that long, right? So the idea is, and this is the train of thought that I follow, try to follow, and I recommend to my clients. There's a title of this book, and it's called, feel the fear and do it anyway. Mm-hmm. Right? So don't wait for the fear to dissolve before you take action. Be okay feeling that fear, but do that thing that you want to do anyway. And I promise you, over time, that fear, it depends what it is, it might not completely dissolve, but it will not be as big to stop you from doing that thing that you want to do, right? So be comfortable with fear. Like we are hardwired to feel the fear around many things. I fear more things than I don't to this day, right? But the reason I'm okay with that is because the things I fear are outside of the realm in which I operate. An example. You didn't pay me enough, David, to bungee jump. But that's okay, because I don't need to bungee jump. Like my life today and how I envision it for the rest of my days does not require me to bungee jump or parachute. Like, I'm not planning to join the fucking army anytime soon, right? Like, nobody's gonna be sending me to. I'm too old, first of all. Like, 42 is like, no, this guy, like, leave him alone. Leave this fucking life coach alone, you know? He looks like too much of a pussy anyway. Don't worry about this guy, you know? So I'm not gonna try to go and create those list of fears and try to tackle each of them. I have instead concentrated on the fears that were directly related to the life I wanted to build for myself. So I wanted to be good with women. So the fear of approaching women was problematic for me, and I had to do something about it. I wanted to become, and this was the most important thing for me, and it still is, I wanted to become the best coach possible. So I had to overcome a fear of, facing someone who is significantly more successful than me, and not to feel intimidated, which is what I've experienced within my first few years of coaching. Not anymore, because again, I had enough exposure to those guys and gals where I'm like, yeah, okay, you are, super rich. So what? Like my life is still better than yours. Not like as in like, oh, look at me. It's just my life is 10 out of 10. Yours is 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. You came to me for help. So yes, you have significantly more money than me, but I have a 10 out of 10 life, and I can help you build a 10 out of 10 life. So, why should I feel jealous? Or why should I feel, not jealous, but why should I feel inferior towards anyone, right? Whether it's a rich person or extremely attractive woman, right? Just because they have something I don't have. And then public speaking was something that I very much linked to my desired success as a coach, not because I wanted to be the next Tony Robbins, far from it, not because I wanted to become a motivational speaker. I just saw public speaking as one of the ways to help me build my reputation as a coach. That's why I didn't allow myself to go, well, public speaking, yes, that would be useful, but I'm afraid of it, and therefore I'm just going to park this one out, and I'm just going to focus on the things I'm comfortable with, because that's not how we grow. right? Like, how do we grow? By doing the things that we fear, but by pushing through those fears and becoming better version of ourselves as a result.
So circling back to responsibility, let me know if I'm getting this wrong, but I think when someone has a problem, they have two ways of going about it. They can either accept it or they can change it, but in order to change it, they have to take responsibility for it. Otherwise you just put the blame on others, right?
Yeah. Imagine you are coming to me for initial consultation, right? And you coming to me because you are broke and you want me to help you not to be broke. I don't need people like that anymore, but back in the day, I would work with some people like that. They would come to me because they were broke and, they wanted to make more money, basically, right? And the reason I say I don't work with people like that anymore, not because I'm like, I'm too good for those people. It's just that my fee range, current fee range, is a little bit too scary for those guys, right? That's why they don't come to meet me anymore. But I used to charge, as we discussed, significantly less than what I charge right now. So anyone could afford to work with me. The first question, or one of the first questions I could ask would be, okay, why do you think you are broke? Most people would say something, well, I haven't found the right career in which I could make more money, or my boss doesn't like me, so I didn't get the promotion I thought I would, or I have this business, but I'm not doing too well. I'm not doing well enough in my business. All good reasons. And if this is the answer you give me, I can help you. But on few occasions, people would say things like, well, the current economy is the Labour government or the Tories government, right? So I come from a poor family and therefore, so external reasons, right? And I would say to this person, listen, I can only help you if you are willing to take full responsibility for where you are. And that's how I perceive the world. And this might sound, I don't think to your listeners, but like to some people, this would sound probably rather radical, right? But again, I never ask people to believe what I believe in. I can only share what I believe in. I can only speak my truth, and you do whatever the fuck you want with my truth, right? You take it or leave it, right? But if someone is unsuccessful with women, for example, it's their fault. If someone is broke, it's their fault. If someone is obese, it's their fault. Don't give me it's the food industry's fault because they put too much fucking sugar. I didn't see any fucking sugar in the nuts I had yesterday. I didn't see any fucking sugar in the fucking veggies I had yesterday, right? But of course, if you allowed yourself to convince yourself that you are obese because the food you fucked, right? Because back to what I was saying before, like if women are the problem, good luck trying to change 4 billion women. If food industry is the problem or the reason why you struggle with weight, good luck changing the fucking food industry, right? But this whole idea of taking full responsibility, the way I see it, it's both good news and bad news, right? The bad news is that if it's your responsibility, if you're responsible, you have nobody else to blame or nothing else to blame. That's the fucking bad news, right? And that's something that, it's not like when I had this epiphany at 26 in regards to women, I was like, oh, I'm so happy I had this. I was like, oh, fuck. Shit. It was easier to blame them, right? It's harder to say to yourself, fucking now it's me, right? But it's also good news at the same time, because when you think about it, if you are the one responsible for where you are in life, you have the power to change it. And to me, that's fucking fantastic news. For me to live my life from a place of, if I'm not happy with my life or certain aspect of my life, I have the power to change it. That's fucking great news. Because it means that I don't need to rely on who is in power at any given point. Is it Labour or is it Tories? I don't need to think about, the stock market. I don't need to think about the fucking weather. I don't need to think about, obviously, if you are in a third world country, obviously that's a disadvantage. You can't get out of this country. I'm not saying that we all have equal opportunities. We all have equal opportunities.
Those are not our listeners anyway. Yeah.
Like I understand that if you are in fucking Kenya, maybe it's a little bit harder to build a 10 out of 10 life for yourself, right? But in a Western society, if you are healthy, as in your mind works, your body works, You might have some minor health issues. We all have minor health issues every now and then. It's not like I'm always perfectly healthy and, I never got COVID. Everybody got COVID and I didn't. Like, of course, like we all have some challenges from time to time, right? But fundamentally, I'm healthy, and therefore I don't allow myself to point any fingers at anyone or anything outside of myself if there is something that I recognize that lacks in my life. I'm fucking responsible. I'm responsible when my life is good. I'm equally responsible when my life is shit. And if someone's life is just, as we were saying, your clients, my clients, it's never really shit. It's okay. It's good. Great fucking news if we consider that you have the power to change it. And then the smartest thing you can do, so I know that you didn't ask me this question, but I'm going to link it with what I believe is the fastest route to fucking transformation. Get a fucking coach, right? If it's fitness, go to David. If it's life, go to a life coach. I'm one of the thousands, tens of thousands life coaches options out there for you, right? When I identified my accent not being what I wanted it to be 10 years ago, I got an accent coach, right? Polish people don't sound like me. I know that, you can still hear my accent, obviously, but Polish people don't sound like me after spending the first 22 years in Poland, right? And it's not because I'm so smart, I could pick up on the correct pronunciation better than everybody else because everybody's dumb and I'm smart. No, I had a fucking accent coach for 6 months coming here to my house for an hour every day, Monday to Friday for the first month. I hated the fucking process because it was so boring. I loved her. She's great. But I hated the fucking process. It felt like going back to school. But again, I have identified the area where I felt I could do better in. And instead of trying to fix it myself and take maybe 2 or 3 years to fix it myself through tapes and YouTube tutorials, I thought, hey, what if I was to work with a coach? Someone whose day job is to help people like me with the challenge I was facing at the time. The challenge being, not super heavy, but heavier Polish accent. And sure enough, after 6 months working with Tamara, her name is Tamara, I started to sound more like now. I'm easier to understand for people. And for me, everything for the last 13 and a half years, everything that I've done for myself in terms of self-improvement, I would always first and foremost link it with my coaching. How can I become a better coach for my clients? Well, it probably wouldn't hurt if my communication was clearer, right? So I'm better understood. And also, none of my clients would ever say that, too nice of people, but, spending 2-3 hours with someone in conversation and that person has a heavy accent, I don't care which country you're from, you have a heavy accent, it's not going to be that enjoyable of an experience for that person, right? So I see accent coaching as just another form of coaching. And when you think about it, there is the right coach for just about any challenge you might be facing. It's about finding that coach, the coach that's right for you, not just any coach, like, okay, I need a fitness coach. Okay, I'm going to work with the first fitness coach I can find. No. Speak to a few, do your research, speak to a few, and back to what we were saying before, try to find someone that, this is like how I sometimes explain, the difference between the right coach versus not the right coach, or the right client versus not the right client. Would you like to spend your time with this person, this coach, or this client outside of the coaching relationship? And if the answer is absolutely no, you probably shouldn't work with them. Like, can you imagine a scenario where you and that coach or you and that client hang out in some social settings, having a coffee in a social settings? And if the answer is like, no, I would never want to do that, then probably you shouldn't be working with them. I can tell you that, we're talking about coaching, but I'll be more than happy to spend time with, I never did, but I'll be more than happy to spend time with my doctor outside of the times that I see him for like medical reasons. I'll be more than happy to spend time with my dentist. I'll be more than happy to spend time with my accountant, right? And that in itself tells me I'm probably working with the right people, because I just like them as human beings. They like me. I like to think, enough. There's that chemistry. And therefore, some of them I've worked with for, over a decade. Some of my clients I've worked with for years. They keep coming back, either continue beyond what we've agreed to or come back after a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I just don't see how this could work if there wasn't enough chemistry, just pure human-to-human chemistry. That's what I'm talking about. Never mind what you can do for them, never mind your expertise, just the basic human-to-human chemistry.
So you mentioned being available 24/7, 365, and also spending 2-3 hours with you. So what does your service entail, or what does it actually look like to the client, or how does it get delivered? I don't know anything about this.
Sure. So like I said, one of the things we do during those initial consultations, so there's absolutely no way a client could become a client before we have that initial consultation. Right. So even if someone said to me, nobody ever tried, because they want to get to know me as well. Like you can learn about me online through my website, through the YouTube channel, whatever. Right. But nothing can replace a conversation, obviously. But even if someone tried, hypothetically say, hey, Michael, I'm pressed for time. Can I send you whatever you charge? And can we start the coaching straight away? I would never agree to that, because I wouldn't know this person at that time, right? So there's always an initial consultation. They take approximately 2 hours, sometimes longer, depending on the person and how the conversation is going, how much chemistry there is. So then they can be shorter than 2 hours, they can be longer than 2 hours, it depends. But we take our time. We take our time to get to know each other. We take our time for me to understand what they need help with, right? Because even though, as I said before, people come to me with similar challenges, the challenges repeat themselves, but everybody is different, obviously. Every person's experience of the same challenges is different. And I take my time to understand those differences, partially so I can propose a program that will be the most appropriate for that particular person, and partially so if that person was to become a client, I have a deep understanding of where they're coming from. So when we have our first session, I already know exactly what I need to do, as opposed to trying to learn what I need to do and hear their story during that first session, right? So step one is the initial consultation. And I always ask people before the initial consultation. So when they reach out to me, I always ask them to, before we meet, to read my website in full, check out some testimonials on my website, ideally, and then do as much research on me beforehand as possible, so they know where I'm coming from. And I check them out as well. It's usually just a LinkedIn profile that I can see, because unless I work with someone with really high profile and then there's lots of things on them online, it's usually just a LinkedIn profile, right? So I want to have a basic understanding of what this person does, so I don't need to waste our time by me asking them, where do they work? Like, the way I see it, I'm asking someone to do a thorough research on me. The least I can do out of respect is to learn which fucking bank they work for, right? Because if this information is there, let me spend 5, 10, 20 minutes to prepare myself as well, so I have an understanding of what they're doing, right? So then there's this initial consultation, and then if someone becomes a client on the back of this initial consultation, we then start working together. Typically, on average, I spend few months with the client. There's a number of sessions over those few months. There is this 24/7 365 access via WhatsApp that we were talking about in between the sessions, right? So I work very closely with my clients. Some of my clients message me quite a bit in between the sessions, because they have quite a few time-sensitive questions, the questions that cannot wait till the next session. Some of my clients never message me between the sessions, but it's always there for everyone. My approach is very personal. I like to get to know my clients. And like I said, that starts with a longer initial consultation. The 2 hours, or especially 2 hours plus, for the initial consultation is certainly not the industry standard. Most coaches, and I'm not saying that, like I'm better than them because I do that. It's just, this suits me more. This is my style. This is how I like to do it, right? But the industry standard would be something like half an hour on the phone or half an hour via Zoom. Yes, there's a Zoom option with me as well, but with most of my clients being London-based or based around London, there's an option of coming here to meet me in person. And sure enough, the vast majority of people who can physically come and meet me in person, So we just have a good chat. We have a conversation. I get to know them. They get to know me. We take a few hours. So then when we do work together, like I said before, I already have a good understanding of who this person is, not just what they do, like what's your job, but like who you are as a human being, right? Like I want to understand who you are as a human being, right? And one of the things I say to my mentees, so other coaches who occasionally come to me for mentoring, basically, right? So for the first 2.5 years, before I got to rather a six-figure level, which for me was the point at which I thought, I've made it. Like I'm successful. So that was like, okay, if I hit that six-figure turnover, like I've made it. Like I've done it, right? I'm doing something right. So that took me 2.5 years. And only when I got to that point, I started to work with other coaches as well. I didn't think it was appropriate for me to try to offer business advice to coaches before I've made it myself, right? It just didn't make sense to me, right? So I didn't work with any coaches for the first 2.5 years. And then I started to work with coaches, after that. And one of the first things I say to those guys when I work with them occasionally is that we are not in the coaching business. We are in a relationship business. That's how I see it. And we use coaching as a vehicle to facilitate the transformation, right? Mm. And to me, that's a very important distinction, because if you approach it like that as a coach or any service provider, right? Like when I I mentioned my doctor, I've had this great private doctor for years now. Yes, I'm his patient, but he never makes me feel like I'm his patient and patient only, right? Like I'm the source of income for him, right? There's a personal relationship there, right? He sees me not as a friend. Like I don't see my clients as friends. I'm friendly with my clients. I don't see them as friends. I'm the fucking coach. When somebody comes to me, they don't come to me because they need another friend. They have enough friends. They come to me because they need a fucking coach, right? But who is to say that as a coach or as a trainer, right, you cannot be friendly with your clients? I want my service providers, the people that I work with, to be friendly with me. Doesn't mean that I want to be friends or I need to be friends with them, right? So having that mindset, I believe, of treating my clients as human beings, as someone that I genuinely want in my life first and foremost, I think it really helps to do everything in a certain way. And what I mean by that, do it in a way that it doesn't feel transactional. Obviously, there's money involved. Obviously, I charge for coaching and I charge handsomely for it. And my clients like to complain about it sometimes, tease me about it. It's like, oh, yeah, so expensive. Like, yes, I am. Yeah, okay. So, you want to do it or not, right? But just because there's money involved in something that we do doesn't mean that we need to treat it in a transactional way, right? I'm just not a transactional person, right? It's not something that I had to work on. It's just never been the way I thought about those things. And I feel super happy doing what I do right now, charging what I charge. But David, I feel just as happy doing what I do when I was charging £20 per session. Mm. It's not like, oh, this coach seemed to be so passionate about what he does. He loves what he do. No wonder he does, because he makes so much money, he charges so much. I was just as fucking, if not happier, when I was charging £20 per session. Why happier, potentially? Because it was also new.
Yep.
Right? It's like first girlfriend versus the fifth one. The first was like, oh my God, I have a girlfriend, right? And by the fifth one, you're like, yeah, I have a girlfriend, like it's good to have a girlfriend, right? And by the 50th, you're like, yeah, whatever, So I absolutely love what I do. I absolutely love my clients. They're very easy to love. So this is not like, oh, because I have so much love in me. They're just very easy to love, right? They're just good people, right? They could be, in some cases, extremely wealthy, extremely successful, but some of them are more down to earth than I am. and they would go out of the way to help other people, and I dig that about them. I dig that about them more than I dig the fucking wealth. Because the wealth, when I was young, it's like, oh my God, this person is so wealthy. Wow, that's so impressive. It doesn't impress me anymore. It's like, yeah, you have a lot of money. That's great. I'm happy for you, and you want to make even more. That's wonderful. That's fantastic. But if you're a fucking asshole, I don't want to be around you. I will have much more respect for someone who's broke, who's a fucking Uber driver, right? And that's the best they can do because they have no ambition, no skills, and they're an Uber driver. But if that guy is a decent person, he keeps his car clean, he's nice to his customers. I have more respect for this guy than the fucking rich asshole who thinks that he's better than you or somebody, especially that Uber driver, just because he has more money, right? I have absolutely no interest in that. The same when it comes to women in my dating life, when, as you know, I'm sure, sometimes pretty girls think, oh, I'm pretty, and therefore, that entitlement, that the pretty entitlement and the wealth entitlement, like those two biggest entitlements. I have absolutely no interest in either of the two. But on the other side, on the flip side, I find myself being very motivated to go above and beyond for good people, right? And with my fees being what they are, I have this rule, and I said that to people many times, the right people, that listen, these are my fees. I know that they are high, especially comparing to other coaches. But I generally have this rule that if I really want to work with someone and they really want to work with me, money cannot stop us. We'll get creative. We'll always find a way. As long as I really want to work with someone based on who they are as a human being, and if I genuinely feel that they want to work with me, it's not like, well, I could work with you, or I could work with somebody else. I said that to someone last year. She was like, oh, it's between you and this other person. I said, with all due respect, go with the other person. If you have to think, you call it arrogant, I don't care. If you have to think whether it's me or the other guy or coach, go with the other coach. I'm no longer interested because I want to work exclusively with my people. Quote unquote, my people don't have to think between me or somebody else. They only want to work with me. And when I feel that quote unquote love, then there's absolutely no way I'm going to let something as trivial, because that's how I see it, as trivial as money to get in the way. Right? It's different when someone has the money, and I know they have it, because especially guys, they like to come in, and I never ask anyone how much money they have or make, but they like to volunteer this information sometimes, right? It's like, okay, good for you, 100 million net worth, like good for you, well done. When somebody has the money and they don't want to, pay my fees, that's a different story, because that's like, okay, you don't respect my fees. I totally respect the fact that you don't respect my fees, but the fee is what it is, take it or leave it, right? But that's sometimes cases where someone isn't well off. It's one of the most common misconceptions, David, that I only work with, wealthy people. If you look at my testimonial page, yes, some of my clients there are wealthy, but many of them are not. They're just normal people, having good jobs, but like nothing crazy. But in extreme cases, there was this girl a few years ago, while she was making at the time $50K per year as a salary, she took a $20K loan to work with me. It wasn't my idea. It's like, fuck it, Michael, what? How did you make her do that? It wasn't my idea. I would never, not because I'm shy and it's like, oh, don't take a loan. It wasn't my idea. It was her idea, right?
With people like that, do you get the result, right?
And I remember thinking that, like, oh my God, this girl will get so much out of coaching with me because it was such an obvious, loud, I'm going to use a strong, loud expression of commitment. She wouldn't miss a fucking, I said, sorry, what was that? What was that? Because she wouldn't want to miss a minute of the time that I would offer and the advice I could give her. Yeah, and sure enough, she was able to quit her job and do what she wanted to do. So I know for a fact that she's happy with making that investment. But I'm sharing that because that's an extreme example of commitment. That's why this argument of like, well, David, I would like to do fitness coaching with you or personal training with you, but I can't afford your fees, or like you charge too much. Like, no. That's your right not to do it, but don't tell me that it's about your commitment. Because if you really wanted to work with David, you would find the way to work with David, just like that girl found the way to work with me. So one thing I've learned as well is that it's rarely about how much money people have as far as hiring coaches is concerned. It's more to do with the level of commitment to solving that problem or that challenge that they have, right? And if they're really committed in solving that problem or that challenge, they will always find a way, right? And especially if someone like myself can be flexible for the right person, as the saying goes, when there's a will, there is a way.
So you mentioned dating a few times now. I'm assuming that's something that you work on with your clients as well when they want to. What are some common mistakes that high status people make in dating?
Sure. So first of all, and this is all tied into like what we talked about already, is they don't go on enough dates, right? So they don't do enough reps, right? So like, why is your bicep not growing as fast as you would like? Well, probably you don't do enough bicep curls, right? It's a little bit like that, right? So when somebody comes to me, whether it's a female or male prospect, and they say that they're not happy in the dating life, they are single, and they would like not to be single, right? I can predict with accuracy the amount of dates they've been on in the last 12 months, and it's always less than 5, right? So they might convince themselves that there's something wrong with them. So like the people I was referring to before, people who would like blame the men or women for the lack of success in the dating, like I don't meet those people anymore. But sometimes they think, okay, there's something wrong with me, right? And sure enough, I have a conversation with them, I get to know them, and it's clear to me that there's nothing wrong with them. They just don't do enough in that particular area. Sometimes because they have focused a little bit too much, perhaps, on some other area, right? And then the lack of success in this area here is the product of them doubling, tripling down on those other areas, right? And just like I was thinking in my 20s, I want to have it all. And I worked to get to the point to have it all. I certainly wasn't working on everything at the same time, which I wouldn't recommend, right? Because when you think about it, if you want to build your career or business, if you want to build your dating life and your body at the same time, that's a lot, right? So my recommendation would be to do it more in stages. Perhaps think about if you are a guy, I would definitely recommend to start with your career, to get your career where it needs to be. Then you could do the gym at the same time. So I'm not saying, hey, do the career and then the gym, because gym you could fit into. Get yourself to the place where you are happy with yourself, both internally, right? So work on your mindset, either by yourself through books or with a coach. Work with a trainer to get to your fitness goals faster. If you can't afford it, learn from people online. And then, coming back to your question, when you get to the point that you really start liking yourself, you are really happy with who you are as a man, it's that the time, or that's the time where you want to put yourself out there in a dating market, right?
So much easier
when you wake up in the morning and feel like a loser.
Yeah.
Because you're just not going to do too well if that's your mindset, because you're going to have that loser energy about you, which is repelling to women. I know that's a strong word. It's repelling. They're repelled by that loser energy. Women as a whole are repelled by the guy who thinks low of himself. And I'm not saying we all need to get to the point when we think we are the fucking, dog's bollocks, to use the English expression, right? When we wake up in the morning and we think we are the best man on the planet, right? That takes a very long time, or a lot of personal development and coaching. But at the very least, we don't want to think that we are a loser and we look like a loser. We don't need to have a six-pack. I don't have a six-pack. We don't need to have a six-pack. But we need to look at ourselves like, you know what? I look fine. I look fine, right? And you want to think about yourself, about your career, about your financial situation and be able to look at that and say, you know what, I'm doing fine. And then from that place, you go out dating. And what happens, you no longer need to worry about chasing anyone. You no longer have to chase women. You attract women. You just show up as that version of yourself. And women, just like they can smell a loser from a mile, they are biologically hardwired to sniff out the difference between a loser and a winner, right? And they have to be, because the winner will be in a much stronger position to provide for them and their potential offspring with them than a loser. A guy who's going to cry when there is, intruder entering the house. Not that it happens a lot in London, in Western world, right? But like hypothetically, a woman wants to be with a guy that she feels confident that he's going to be able to handle just about any situation, right? And she's going to determine whether we are this type of guy or the other based on how we carry ourselves. And in order for us to carry ourselves in a particular way, the kind of way that would be attractive to women, we've got to do the work. As men, we got to take responsibility for doing the work that's required to show up in a dating market in a way that women will find attractive, right? And those things are learnable. Everything is learnable. Like that confidence. We talked about confidence. I see confidence it's like a muscle. The more we work on it, the bigger it becomes, the stronger it becomes, right? But the personal development as a whole, if we're talking about attraction, if we're talking about women, dating lives, it's not just advice for single guys, because you can be in a relationship, but if you turn into a loser, she's going to leave you for a winner. At the very least, she might cheat on you with a winner, and then she eventually might leave you for a winner. So don't think like, oh, we are in a relationship now, I can get fat, I can get lazy, but she's already with me, what she's going to do, leave me? Well, if she was my client, I would literally make her leave you. And I've done it, I would literally make her leave you, right? Because you've dropped the ball. You don't look after yourself. You don't look after her. Why the fuck, a high-value woman, which is the only type of woman I work with, why the fuck would you expect a high-value woman to want to be with your fucking sorry ass? With all those amazing guys out there that she can choose from and she can swap you for, right? So guys, like, we got to take responsibility, right? Like, I have this mindset where, and this is going to be too much for some people to like not comprehend, because it's not hard to comprehend intellectually, but it's going to be like fucking
to resonate with.
But I have this mindset that I've built over the years where it is unimaginable for me for a woman to cheat on me or to leave me. And I know it's not about the looks, because first of all, I know what my looks are. Second of all, I had the same looks, if not better, when I was in my 20s, and I sucked, as I said before, right? So I know it's not about the looks. And I know it's not about the money either, because I already had that mindset and certain level of success with women before I've made the money, right? When I was working in retail and making 35K a year as a store manager, I already had that mindset because I've already done the work on myself in that department to to carry myself as the kind of guy that woman would never for a second think about cheating on or leaving. But the way I carry myself, the way I think of myself, it is something that people, and women in particular in that context, can pick up on. And they find it irresistible. So don't think for a second, anyone listening, because this is what I was thinking in my 20s. The reason why I'm not as successful with women as I would like to be, and this is me putting it in mind because I wasn't successful at all, is because, this is exactly what I was thinking, it is because I'm not good looking enough. This was my fucking story. This is the story I was telling myself. So like, if I was better looking, I would get more action. But because I'm just like average looking, or like decent looking, half decent looking, I'm not getting enough action. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's about the fucking confidence first and foremost. You can be the shortest, not particularly good looking guy. You can be skinny as fuck. You can be broke even. And if you have the right amount of confidence and you have a certain type of attitude, you will do better than the guy who's tall, who's really good looking, who's very successful financially. But since we don't have to choose for most of us, we don't have to choose one or the other. Yeah, the height is something we cannot change, obviously, but we can all get in a better shape. We can all make certain improvements around our body. So like, I did my teeth, like Polish people don't have teeth like that, like we're not born with teeth like that. So like, I've done my teeth. I had a hair transplant, I've transplanted some of my hair.
I was going to ask,
Yeah, because like it was just in this area here, I had that kind of hairline, and now, I have, so it was, it's not something that we necessarily obvious to most people, but if there's something that you can change, why not? I've paid for 2 nose jobs, not for my, as you can tell, not my nose job, but I had 2 girlfriends who wanted nose jobs. One of them, I'm not gonna lie, she definitely needed one, right? For one of them, it was more like a cosmetic thing. She had a nice looking nose, but she just wanted to have a perfect nose. Okay, baby, let's get you a fucking nose job, no problem. The other one, yeah, I there was no resistance on my side, why not, right? Like what's like, you identify that there is a feature that you're not happy with. If it's fixable, why not changing it, right? So by all means, what I'm trying to say, by all means, let's try to turn into best versions of ourselves, both physically, but especially in terms of the so-called inner work that we do, right? The personal development stuff, right? But then when you combine the adjustments and, like plastic surgeries and things like that, that's like a next level, right? But like on the most basic level, let's be looking as fit and feeling as healthy as possible. Let's eat better food more often than we eat shit food. I do both, but I consume far more healthy food than unhealthy food, right? Hence, I look the way I look, and I'm not, I haven't ballooned, right? And then when we do all of those things, we put ourselves in the best position possible to attract, to have access to as many options as possible, right? So then we're like, oh, women are so picky. Of course they are picky. They fucking should be picky. You should be picky, and she should be picky.
Exactly.
Right? So I'm not going to be complaining about women being picky. I expect them to be picky. I encourage my female clients and my clients to be picky, to have fucking standards. But I also say, hey, listen, let's start with you. If you are a slob, if you don't look after yourself, and then you say, I only want to date models, like, sure, everybody does, but most people, but they want to date you. Oh, but I'm a good person. Not enough. It's like, you don't need to be a good person to make a killing with the ladies. I recommend to be a decent human being, but that has nothing to do with your dating success, right? It's those other things. It's that attitude. Is how highly you think of yourself as a man, right? But unfortunately, if you think highly of yourself, but you have nothing to show for it, you're gonna come across as delusional, right? So the idea is to elevate yourself to the highest level possible. If you are not opposed to do plastic surgeries, enhancements, things like I've done, fucking do it. If you are opposed to it, don't fucking do it. It's not like, oh, if I haven't done those things, I wouldn't be a success. These are like nice to haves. This is not, it didn't change that much. It's not like I've seen a change from one day to another, right? In terms of how people respond to me, right? I've done it first and foremost for myself. And in my lifelong commitment to my personal development, I've identified things around my body which I could improve, and I've just added them to the mix. But yes, dating and relationships in general is definitely one of the areas that people come to me to work on. So career-related stuff, whether I'm working with business owners or people in corporate environments, anything to do with that, like how to perform better in that realm, dating relationships, in no particular order, dating relationships, confidence and self-love, that's a big one as well. And then things like work-life balance, productivity, health and fitness as well. So obviously I don't have the knowledge that you would have, but I have definitely a basic knowledge around, how do we gain weight? How do we lose weight? which food is better than the other, what type of physical activities we could do, so I help people with that as well. But, I like to remind them sometimes that, hey, listen, I'm not an expert when it comes to fitness. There are experts that I know, yourself included, David, obviously. For us coaches, even if we know 5% more on the subject than our client, we can become valuable to that client. We don't need to know 300% more or 10,000% more. Even if I know 5, 10, 20% more, 30% more on a particular subject than my client, that's valuable to them because I can pass that knowledge to them. And because coaching, or the way I do it anyway, is not just about me having sessions and talking to my clients about the things I talk to them about. There is a strong a component or element of accountability as well, as in me holding them accountable. So it's not just us having a conversation, coming up with an action plan at the end of the session, and then they are, out there trying to implement it. I'm there to support them throughout the process to make sure that they do the things they said they're going to do. And between us having those conversations about what's most important to them, coming up with action plans at the end of the sessions, and me holding them accountable, one can, if they do their part, one can expect not just an improvement as a result of working with me over typically a few months, as I said before. It varies, but it's typically a few months, few short months. It's not the improvement that they can expect, it's the transformation. And sometimes the transformation, that's my favorite type. That's always my goal. It just doesn't always happen, right? So I don't want to say, hey, everyone I ever work with ends up with, radical transformation. That's always the goal. That's always my intention, to not just transform someone's life, but to radically transform it. But I'm happy with the transformation. I'm not happy with the improvement, right? Like when I first started, for the first few years of coaching, if someone has improved as a result of working with me, I was okay with that. Because I'm learning, I'm charging, I don't know, £100 per session, £1,000 per program. Oh, there's an improvement. Oh, that's nice. Now, I have much higher expectation of myself. I have much higher expectations of my clients. I charge considerably more. So there is a sense of responsibility that I feel that comes with, charging what I charge. I don't mind, go to the restaurant and spend, X amount of money for a dinner for two. But hey, if you charge me £10 for water, this better be a good fucking water. Yeah. So like I have no problem spending £10 or £12 on the fucking water, but it better fucking arrives in the right temperature. And if not, you're going to find out about it. Or I'm going to very politely ask you to fucking, bring right. If I go to the toilet, it better be fucking clean. Right. So if I'm at Nando's, not that I go to Nando's a lot, but if I go to Nando's, my expectations are very low. My expectation is to get a chicken and some rice, spend, £12.50 and leave. Right. That's my expectation. There's no, I'm not expecting amazing service. So it's not that anyone has ever said anything, but they don't need to say it. My clients don't need to say it. I say it to myself. If I, quote unquote, dare to charge what I charge, I better fucking deliver. I better fucking, first and foremost, show up in a way that I don't look tired. My hair is not all over the fucking place, in a way that I don't look like I just fucking woke up, right? I need to be able to listen. I need to be able to talk and convey what I'm trying to convey, obviously, but I need to be able to listen as well, right? I need to be able to retain. I don't need to be able to retain everything that they say because, if it's a long session, especially, and there's number of sessions and there's number of clients, of course, realistically, I'm not going to be recording those sessions. I'm going to try to remember as much as possible, but realistically, I won't be able to remember everything. But there is so much pressure I put on myself to be at my best for my clients and lead to that transformation. My clients don't need to put pressure on me. Like I put enough pressure on myself, right? And sure enough, as long as my clients do their part, right? If they meet me at my level of like seriousness when it comes to that, there is absolutely no reason as to why they shouldn't expect a transformation, which often looks more to me like a radical transformation than just a transformation. Just like I know you're not interested in working with people on, losing 2 or 3 kilos. Right? You want to work with someone who looks like average at best and turn them into looking like fucking, you know, if they need another actor to replace the Superman guy, you know, like they would consider your client, you know. So, and that's what drives you, right? That's what makes you most excited, to take someone from looking very average or even below average to looking really fucking good, right? I'm sure it doesn't always happen, because I know that even though you know exactly what they need to do and you know exactly how to guide them to that transformation, they won't always follow your advice. And it's the same with my clients sometimes. But as long as I know I've done my best, as long as I feel like I couldn't possibly do any more for this particular client, I can sleep well at night knowing that I'm not overcharging for what I do. I can be proud of myself as someone who takes my craft seriously. I see coaching as a craft that I'm on a lifelong journey to become a master at. I'm not saying I'm a master now, far from it, but I'm on a lifelong journey to become absolutely masterful at what I do. But mastery is not something that can take 13 and a half years. That's a 20, 30, 40, maybe 50-year journey, you know. So I'm very excited to see what level I'm going to get to as a coach by the time I'm 60, by the time I'm 70. My father was asking me last year at some point, about my pension fund. So he was like, do you have a pension fund? Like, do you like pay into a pension? I said, no. How come? Like, but what's going to happen when you like retire? Retire from coaching? Why would I retire from coaching? Like, what else I'm going to do? Just like sit on my ass, look at my bank account, you know, or like just travel from one hotel to another. So I have absolutely no intention of ever retiring. And I will basically coach. The plan is to coach until I'm physically unable to coach anymore, until I lose my speech, or I'm just like so fucking old and sick that I just can't do it anymore, right? So you can imagine, I can imagine that, especially if we add another 20, 30, maybe 40 years, I'm pushing it with 40, but 20, 30 years of experience, I mean, it's going to be scary, considering that already now the improvements don't happen anymore with my clients today. It's always a transformation, often radical transformation. And the idea would be for this to shift to the reality where there is always a radical transformation, right? Whether that's possible, whether that's feasible, I'm not sure, because as you know, you can do your part to the best of your ability, but if the client is not cooperating, right? I sometimes say to people playfully during the initial consultation, I said to them, listen, all I'm going to need from you is to fucking cooperate. Right? It's like police, when the police is asking you, in the movies, when the police is asking you for cooperation. So all I need from you is cooperation. You don't need to do any thinking, planning, what we're going to talk about, what we're going to do each session. I'm going to take care of all of that. All you got to fucking do is to cooperate. Just fucking trust me that I know what I'm doing. Just trust me, trust the fucking process, cooperate, and everything's going to be just fine.
Thank you. We have some rapid fire questions if you're up for it.
Sure.
A book that everyone should read.
My favorite book ever. I can't remember the title. There's a guy called Naval.
Oh, Naval. The Almanac.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
It's awesome.
Yeah. What's the title? The Almanac of Naval. Yeah, I can't pronounce it, but that's the book. So for any of you not familiar with Naval, Naval. If you Google Naval, he's massive on X. He's on other social media platforms as well. But there is this book that he didn't write. It's a book written by, I believe, a German journalist who basically took his best blogs and articles and tweets and put it into a book. It's a beautifully written book. This guy's so wise, and there's 3 sections to it. He talks about wealth, happiness, and health. And that really resonates with me because those are the 3 areas I focus with my clients on the most. So that's the best book I've ever read, and the one I recommend for anyone interested to check out.
Yeah, I love Naval. Favorite exercise in the gym?
So fucking predictable. Obviously, the fucking
what?
chest, bench press.
Yeah. Okay.
Bench press.
A habit you're proud of being consistent with.
It's actually not bench press, it's dumbbell press. I do dumbbell press, not bench press anymore. Just to, I like to be precise with my answers and accurate with my answers. But it's going to the gym 3 times a week, no matter what. And the reason why I'm the most proud of it, even though it's like, that's hardly original. Well, you didn't ask me for originality, right? I'm not trying to be original. I'm just trying to give you an accurate answer. The reason I'm the most proud of this one in particular, because it is not something I particularly enjoy. Because, I have a habit of coaching people and running initial consultations and always replying to my clients within 24 hours. But I find it super easy. So I'm not going to be proud of it because it's easy for me. It's natural for me. I would do it even if I couldn't get paid for it, right? Whereas if I could pay someone to
train
go
instead
to the
of
gym
you.
for me and for me to look the way I look and feel the way I feel, I'll be more than happy.
Few more years, probably, technology will get there.
If you can fucking do those dumbbell presses and for my chest to look the way it does, I'll be more than happy to outsource it to you. Or if they develop the pill. So I'm proud of it because over the last 13 years now, I haven't missed a single workout unless I was physically unwell or I was abroad. I was traveling, right? So I don't miss workouts. Doesn't matter how I feel when I wake up in the morning. If it's a Monday, Wednesday, or Friday, I go to the gym. I do what I need to do. I always complete all the exercises I need to complete. So I'm proud of this one because I've never been into fitness. I'm not into fitness. I don't particularly like fitness, but I like the result of me going to the gym more than I hate the effort that it takes for me to do it.
Right. A thing under 100 pounds that you cannot live without.
A thing under 100 pounds that I cannot live without.
Please don't say condoms.
I don't like condoms. It's actually... My clients got me into it.
No.
Yeah.
I'm passionately anti-Huel.
Oh yeah? Why is that?
Because you're probably one of the very few people that it's actually useful for. If you're trying to lose body fat, then you probably shouldn't be drinking 450 calorie shakes.
Yeah. It is very useful for me because...
Just a meal replacement.
It's not even that. I treat it as a snack. And the reason I have it here next to me, because I didn't know how long we're going to speak for exactly, but when I'm with a client and we go above a 2-hour mark, I need to replenish my, sugar levels. I need more energy, right? And I would never open a bag of crisps or take a protein bar and have in front of a client. But this is like you see, so I only ever have those during my meetings. If my meetings go for longer than 2 hours, but I find them to be so practical and useful. And I do like the taste, and they definitely under 100 pounds, as you know.
Fine. That was a pretty good reasoning, unfortunately. What's your favorite quote?
My favorite quote is actually from Naval as well. He said, "The desire is the contract we make with ourselves that we will be unhappy until we get what we want." Right? So I think after reading that a few years ago, I started to work on dropping all desires. And I think
about that quote every day.
I think I've succeeded at that. I'm obviously okay needing things because as human beings, we need things. I'm okay with wanting things. Oh, I want this, I want that, I want this girl, I want this client, I want this pair of fucking sneakers, whatever it is. I don't mind that. But I do not want to fucking desire anything or anyone. Like as a policy, I don't want to, for the rest of my life, I do not want to desire anything. Because you know how it clouds your mind. It's like, oh my God, I need to have her, I need to have this, I need to have this watch. And then you just fucking obsess over it. I don't want to do it. I spend most of my life desiring things. I don't want to desire anything anymore. And there's another one. Actually, I have to say that I thought about this one probably because we talked about Naval, but actually my favorite quote is from Jim Rohn, who is my favorite guy in personal development, my biggest influence in personal development. And the quote is something along the lines of learn to be happy with what you have in the pursuit of what you want.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So the idea is, sure,
Nice.
pursue, like work towards things that you want, but it's so fucking important to learn to appreciate what we already have, because if we can't do that, we will always be in this state of wanting more and believing, telling ourselves the story that unless I have X, Y, or Z, I won't be able to be happy, which is just false, right? So wherever you are at this point in life, appreciate what you have. I know it sounds fucking hippie, right? But appreciate what you have. If you are healthy, if you are healthy enough to listen to this, right? If you have internet access and you're healthy enough to listen to this, that's already something to be grateful for. If you have fucking 2 legs and 2 arms and you can fucking see, fucking hell, that's amazing, right? If you have a job that pays the bills, that's fucking awesome, right? If you had sex at least once with someone, that's fucking great. Like, don't be like, oh, but I've only been with 10 people. I've only had 10 clients. I only make 100K. I only make 50K. It's like, don't allow yourself to fall into this trap of nothing is ever enough, right? But at the same time, by all means, be ambitious. Embrace your ego. I have a huge fucking ego. That ego fucking drives me to become better. As a coach, as a partner to my girlfriends, as a fucking son to my mother, right? It's the ego, it's the competitiveness in me. It's the fucking ego. Someone gonna be like, oh, this guy has such a big ego. Thank you. I take it as a compliment. If it wasn't for the ego, I wouldn't be here. I'd be still in Poland, fucking working McDonald's or something, right? After quitting school at 17. So I love my fucking ego. I have a great relationship with my ego. But at the same time, I don't think I'm better than anyone, right? So it's not like, oh, big ego means that you think you are better than somebody else. I'm no better than anybody else, but equally, nobody's better than me, right? So that's like one of my, I know it's unrelated to like your question, but that's one of my core philosophies in life, which I'm gonna share. I'm not better than anyone, but certainly nobody's better than me either, right? And when you think about it, if you live your life from that place, life is good, or life will be good. Because on one side, you won't be coming across as arrogant, and Mr. Know-it-all, guru. He thinks he's a fucking guru, telling people how to live their lives, whether they ask for it or not, going around and coaching people. I only coach my clients, I don't go around and tell people what to do, unless they become clients, and then that's them giving me permission to fucking coach them and tell them things, right? But equally, when you don't think you are inferior to anyone, people find it attractive. Because those rich people, those rich guys we were talking about and gals, those attractive women, they don't want to be fucking put on a pedestal. They're not going to respect you if you fucking put them on a pedestal. They're going to go to someone who's like, hey, what's up? Oh, you're kind of pretty, yeah? What else have you got going for you? That's a very different energy. And the guy who's like, oh my God, yes, where are you from? Oh my God, that's amazing. You are from this. And the same with successful people, like if you try to do that with your successful clients, prospective clients, if I was like, they'll be like, oh my God, I don't want my personal trainer, my fitness trainer, my
fanboying,
to fucking treat me like a god. I want to be like, hey, tell me what to do. You are the expert. I came to you for help. Don't treat me like a fucking king. No, I treat myself like a king a little bit, but I don't treat anybody else like a king or queen. It's like we're all equal. On a spiritual level, I see us all as being equal. And then we are, better than others at certain things, but that other person will be better at something else than I am, right? But on a spiritual level, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. On a spiritual level, we're all equal. That's my mantra. That's how I approach life.
Thank you very much, Michael. Where can people find you?
Very simple, michaelserwa.com. And then from there, you can find everything else. So if you're on LinkedIn, you can follow me on LinkedIn. I post regularly. At this point anyway, subject to change, maybe I wake up tomorrow and be like, I'm done with posting. So I post regularly on LinkedIn and Instagram. I have a YouTube channel as well. There's a book, which you can find on my website as well, in all different formats, paperback, Kindle, as well as audiobook. But yeah, michaelserwa.com is the place.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.